The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a massive bowl carved from black stone. 12 different alien species sat in their assigned seats, each one representing billions of lives across the galaxy. The air hummed with translation, devices that turned alien words into sounds others could understand. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the center of the hall. His blue uniform looked small and plain, next to the fancy robes and metal suits worn by the alien council members. He kept his hands behind his back and his face calm, even though he knew what was coming. Zethkalar rose from the highest seat. The Zentari leader stood 8 feet tall with purple skin that seemed to glow under the chamber lights. His forearms moved as he spoke, and his voice boomed through the hall. "We gather today to decide the fate of the species called humans," Zethkalar said. "For too long, these creatures have brought chaos to our peaceful galaxy. They fight wars, they take what is not theirs, and they refuse to follow our laws." Jake wanted to speak, but the rules said he could only listen until the voting was done. He watched as the other council members nodded their heads or made sounds of agreement. The Keth Mori representative, a being that looked like a giant insect with silver wings, clicked its mandibles. "Humans are dangerous. They spread across space like a disease. They take planets that belong to others and call it exploration. They refuse our gift of genetic peace," added the Veltar speaker. The Veltar looked almost human except for their green skin and 3 eyes. "We offered to remove their aggressive genes to make them calm and civilized. They said no." Jake remembered that day well. The aliens had wanted to change human DNA to make them less willing to fight or explore. They called it a gift, but humans saw it as an attempt to turn them into slaves. Earth's government had refused, and tensions had been growing ever since. "The humans have colonies in 17 star systems," said another council member. "They mine asteroids without permission. They build ships with weapons we did not approve. They act like they own the galaxy." Zethkalar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "The evidence is clear. Humans are too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to remain part of galactic civilization. I call for a vote." The voting began with the Zentari, of course. Zethkalar's vote was yes, meaning he wanted humans banished. One by one, the other species voted. The Keth Mori voted yes. The Veltar voted yes. The crystal beings called the Shard voted yes by making their bodies glow bright red. Jake counted the votes in his head. 8 yes votes so far. He needed at least 7 no votes to stop this, but he could see it was not going to happen. The smaller species that might have supported humans looked scared. They did not want to anger the big powers. The final vote came from the Aquari, a species that lived underwater on their homeworld. Their representative spoke through a water-filled helmet. "We vote yes. Humans must go." "The vote is complete," Zethkalar announced. 12 votes for banishment, 0 votes against. The human species is hereby expelled from galactic civilization. The hall filled with sounds of celebration from most of the aliens. A few of the smaller species looked uncomfortable, but they said nothing. Now Jake could speak. He stepped forward and looked up at Zethkalar. "You are making a mistake," he said. His voice carried clearly through the hall. "You think removing humans will make the galaxy safer? You are wrong." "Silence," Zethkalar commanded. "You have no voice here anymore. You have 18 of your months to remove all human presence from space beyond your home system. Any humans found outside the Sol system after that time will be destroyed." "What about our colonies?" Jake asked. "There are millions of humans living on those worlds, families, children, people who have never even seen Earth. They will return to Earth or they will die," said the Keth Mori representative. "We do not care which." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. Getting angry now would only prove their point about humans being too violent. "And you plan to keep us locked in our home system forever?" "A quantum barrier will be placed around your star system," Zethkalar explained. "Nothing will be able to enter or leave. You will have your little corner of space to fight and destroy each other as much as you want. The rest of the galaxy will finally know peace." The Zentari leader gestured with two of his arms. Guards, escort this human to his ship. Make sure he understands that this is the last time any human will be allowed in this chamber. Two large robots moved toward Jake. He did not resist as they flanked him. Before they could lead him away, he spoke one more time. You think you know what humans are, Jake said, looking around the hall. You think we are just violent animals who cause problems. But you have never tried to understand us. We fight, yes, but we fight against bullies and tyrants. We explore because we want to learn and grow. We refuse your genetic changes because we believe every species has the right to be what they are. Enough, Zethkalar said. You are about to learn what the galaxy looks like without humans in it. Jake continued as the robots began to move him toward the exit. When there is no one left to stand up to you, when there is no one left to say no to your demands, you will remember this day. You will wish you had listened. The great doors of the hall closed behind Jake with a sound like thunder. In 6 months, the quantum barrier would be complete. Humanity would be trapped in the Sol system, cut off from the stars they had worked so hard to reach. As Jake walked through the space station corridors toward his ship, he passed aliens from dozens of different species. Most of them looked happy about the vote. A few looked worried, but they quickly looked away when they saw him watching them. Jake reached his ship and sent a message to Earth. The news would reach home in 3 days. He wondered how his people would react when they learned they had been thrown out of the galaxy like unwanted guests. He also wondered if Zethkalar and the others had any idea what they had just done. Humans did not give up easily. They did not, accept defeat quietly. The aliens thought they were removing a problem, but Jake suspected they had just created a much bigger one. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you cornered the most stubborn species in known space. 8 years had passed since the quantum barrier went up around the Sol system. Commander Alex Wright floated in the observation deck of Research Station Alpha, looking out at the shimmering wall of energy that kept humanity trapped. The barrier looked like a soap bubble made of stars, beautiful and deadly at the same time. Still no luck breaking through? Asked Dr. Kate Phillips as she joined him at the window. Kate ran the physics department on the station, and she had been working on the barrier problem since day one. Every test we run fails, Alex said. The barrier absorbs our energy weapons, deflects our ships, and blocks our communication signals. It is like trying to punch through a wall made of space itself. Kate nodded. She had tried everything she could think of. Lasers, particle beams, even nuclear weapons. The barrier just soaked up the energy and got stronger. The aliens were smart. When they built this thing, they made it impossible to break from the inside. Maybe impossible for them, Alex said. But they are not human. Down on Earth, the situation was getting desperate. The planet now held over 15 billion people, including all the colonists who had been forced to return home. Food was running short. Resources were stretched thin. Some cities had riots almost every day, but something else was happening too. Something the aliens had not expected. In a workshop on Luna, engineer Ben Adams was building something new. Ben had always been good with machines, but the last 8 years had changed him. Without access to alien technology, humans had been forced to figure things out for themselves. And Ben had figured out quite a lot. "Hand me that wrench," Ben said to his assistant, Amy Rodriguez. Amy was barely 20 years old, but she understood quantum mechanics better than most professors. "Which one?" Amy asked. "The sonic wrench or the plasma wrench?" "The regular one," Ben said with a grin. "Sometimes the old ways work best." Ben was working on a new type of engine. The aliens used quantum tunneling drives that were fast and efficient, but they were also predictable. Every alien ship moved in the same way, followed the same patterns. Ben's engine was different. It was chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely human. "The test readings look good," Amy said, checking her instruments. "The drive is generating space-time distortions just like we hoped." "More than that," Ben said. "It is generating distortions that should not be possible according to alien physics. They think they understand the universe, but they only understand their small, safe part of it." Meanwhile, in the asteroid belt, Captain Ryan Brooks was testing another human innovation. His ship, the Horizon, was unlike anything humanity had built before. It was fast, heavily armed, and completely invisible to alien sensors. "Stealth systems are working perfectly," reported his science officer, Luke Peterson. "The alien detection grid cannot see us at all." "Good," Ryan said. "How long until we reach the barrier?" 2 hours, Luke answered. "Are you sure about this, Captain? If we get caught, the aliens might decide to destroy Earth instead of just keeping us locked up." Ryan had thought about that risk many times, but humanity was dying slowly behind the barrier. If they did not take chances, they would be extinct in 20 years anyway. "We have to try, Luke. We cannot just sit here and wait to die." The Horizon approached the quantum barrier carefully. Ryan and his crew had spent months studying the wall of energy, looking for weaknesses. They had found something interesting. The barrier was solid and unbreakable, but it was not perfect. There were tiny gaps, spaces where the energy was thinner. The gaps were too small for normal ships to use, but the Horizon was not a normal ship. "Beginning phase shift," announced engineer Lisa Carter from the engine room. "Molecular cohesion, at 60% and dropping." The Horizon began to change. Its solid metal hull became fuzzy like smoke that still held the shape of a ship. The aliens had never seen anything like it because they thought such technology was too dangerous to develop. They were probably right, but humans had never let danger stop them before. "Barrier contact in 10 seconds, Luke reported. "All systems ready." "Take us through," Ryan ordered. The Horizon hit the barrier and kept going. The ship's ghostly form slipped through the gaps in the energy wall like water flowing through a screen. Alarms sounded for a moment as the barrier tried to stop them, but then they were through. "We are outside the Sol system," Luke said quietly. "We are free." But Ryan did not celebrate yet. Getting out was only the first step. Now they had to survive in a galaxy that wanted them dead. Back on Earth, the news of the Horizon's escape spread quickly. People gathered in the streets to cheer and cry. For the first time in 8 years, humans had reached the stars again. Sato, his office in Geneva, President Sam Turner read the reports with mixed feelings. The escape was good news, but it also meant the real work was about to begin. "How many more ships can we build like the Horizon?" he asked his science advisor, Dr. Nina Foster. "With our current resources, maybe 20, Nina said. "But each one takes 6 months to build, and we need special materials that are hard to find." "Then we better get started," Sam said, "because I have a feeling we are going to need every ship we can get." The aliens had thought they were solving a problem when they locked humanity away. They believed the galaxy would be more peaceful without humans causing trouble, but they had made a serious mistake. They had given humanity 8 years to think, to plan, and to get very, very angry. Engineer Carlos Stone was working on weapons that could cut through alien shields like paper. Dr. Grace Mitchell was designing ships that could outrun anything in the alien fleet. Captain Helen Torres was training a new generation of pilots who had grown up dreaming of revenge against the species that had caged their world. The aliens had wanted to remove chaos from their ordered galaxy. They thought humans were too unpredictable, too willing to break rules and try dangerous things. But chaos was exactly what the galaxy needed, and the aliens were about to learn why. In the depths of space, Captain Ryan Brooks and the crew of the Horizon were already beginning their work. They had found something the aliens did not expect them to find. Evidence that the great and noble Galactic Council was not as peaceful and civilized as they claimed to be. The barrier around Sol was not just a prison, it was a cover-up. And humanity was about to expose what the aliens had been hiding. The galaxy thought it was done with humans. It was about to discover that humans were far from done with the galaxy. Captain Ryan Brooks watched through the Horizon's view screen as the Kethmori mining ship stripped another mountain from the planet below. The insect-like aliens worked their machines day and night, turning a once green world into a barren rock. They did not care about the billions of small creatures that died when the mountains fell. "How many worlds have they destroyed like this?" asked Luke Peterson from his station. "According to our scans, at least 40 in this sector alone," Ryan answered. "And this is just what the Kethmori are doing. We have not seen what the Zentari and Veltar have been up to. It had been 3 months since the Horizon escaped from the Sol system. Ryan and his crew had been moving carefully through alien space, staying hidden and gathering information. What they found made them sick. Without humans around to argue, with them the major alien powers had become monsters. "Captain," called out Lisa Carter from the engine room. "I am picking up a distress signal from the planet's surface. It is weak, but it sounds like survivors." Ryan made a decision that would change everything. "Take us down. Let us see who is still alive down there." The Horizon dropped through the planet's poisoned atmosphere and landed near the source of the signal. Ryan led a small team outside wearing protective suits against the toxic air. They found a group of small, furry aliens hiding in caves. The creatures looked like earth rabbits that could walk on 2 legs. "Please do not hurt us," said one of the aliens through a translation device. "We have nothing left to take." "We are not here to hurt you," Ryan said gently. "We are humans. We are here to help." The alien's eyes went wide. "Humans, but humans are extinct. The Council said so many years ago." "The Council lied about many things," Ryan said. "Tell me, what happened to your world?" The alien who said, his name was Pip, told a story that made Ryan's blood boil. The Kethmori had come 5 years ago, claiming they needed to mine certain metals. They promised to take only what they needed and leave the rest of the planet alone. Instead, they had strip-mined everything, poisoned the water, and killed most of Pip's people. "Before the humans disappeared, we could complain to the Council," Pip said sadly. "The humans would argue for us, make the big powers follow the rules. But after humans were gone, no one listened to small species like us anymore." Ryan looked around the ruined landscape and made another decision. "Pip, how would you like to fight back?" Back in the Sol system, Admiral Grace Mitchell was preparing humanity's first real fleet in 14 years. 20 ships like the Horizon were almost ready, each one equipped with weapons and technology the aliens had never seen. But Grace knew they needed more than just better ships to win this war. "The key is not to conquer the galaxy," she told her officers in the briefing room. "Our job is to remind the galaxy what it lost when they threw us out." Commander Alex Wright raised his hand. "What do you mean, Admiral?" "Before our banishment, the galaxy had balance," Grace explained. "The big powers could not do whatever they wanted because humans would fight them. Small species had protection because humans would defend them. We were not perfect, but we kept the bullies honest." Grace activated a holographic display showing star charts. "The reports from Captain Brooks confirm what we suspected. Without us, the galaxy has become a place where might makes right. The Zentari have enslaved dozens of worlds. The Kethmori strip mine planets without permission. The Veltar conduct experiments on living beings." "So what is our strategy?" asked Captain Helen Torres. "We become the immune system again," Grace said. "We hit their supply lines, free their slaves, and show the oppressed species that they do not have to live in fear anymore." The first human strike came without warning. Captain Sam Turner led 3 ships against a Zentari slave convoy. The alien guards were not prepared for human tactics. Where alien battles followed predictable patterns, humans attacked from impossible angles, used weapons in unexpected ways, and never gave up even when things looked hopeless. "Zentari vessel, this is Captain Turner of the human fleet," Sam broadcast as his ships surrounded the convoy. "Release your prisoners immediately." "Humans?" came the shocked reply. "But you are extinct." "Reports of our death were greatly exaggerated," Sam said. "You have 10 seconds to open your prison ships." The Zentari captain tried to fight instead. It was a mistake. Human weapons cut through alien shields like they were made of paper. The alien ships were designed to fight other aliens who followed the same rules of warfare. Humans had never bothered to learn those rules. Within minutes, the convoy was captured, and thousands of slaves were free. But instead of taking them back to human space, Sam did something the aliens did not expect. He gave the freed beings human weapons and taught them how to use them. "You do not have to be victims anymore," Sam told the former slaves. "The galaxy told you that this was just how things are, that the strong will always rule the weak. But that is a lie. Fight back, and we will fight beside you." Word of the human return spread quickly through the underground networks that connected oppressed species across the galaxy. Beings who had given up hope began to whisper about ships that appeared from nowhere to free slave worlds. They talked about weapons that could destroy any alien ship, and about humans who shared their technology freely with anyone willing to fight against tyranny. On the Zentari homeworld, Zeth Kalar received reports that made his purple skin turn darker with rage. "How many ships have we lost this month?" he demanded. 47, Council Prime, answered his aide. "The humans attack our convoys, free our workers, and disappear before we can respond. Humans are supposed to be trapped in their home system," Zeth Kalar roared. "How are they escaping?" "We do not know, my lord. Our sensors cannot detect them until they attack. Their technology is unlike anything in our databases." Zeth Kalar had spent 8 years enjoying the power that came from having no opposition. Now that power was being challenged by a species he thought was finished. "Send a message to the Kethmori and Veltar leaders. Tell them we need to meet." But even as the major alien powers tried to coordinate their response, the damage was spreading. Captain Luke Peterson led raids that destroyed Kethmori mining equipment and evacuated native populations before their worlds could be strip-mined. Dr. Amy Rodriguez used human medical technology to heal beings who had been experimented on by the Veltar. Each human victory inspired more rebellion. Species that had been afraid to resist for years suddenly found the courage to fight back. They had human weapons, human tactics, and most importantly, human examples to follow. The galaxy was learning what it meant to face an angry human fleet. But more than that, it was remembering what it felt like to have hope. The bullies were not invincible after all. Someone was finally fighting back, and that someone was winning. In the quantum barrier around Sol, cracks began to appear. Not physical cracks, but cracks in the alien certainty that they had solved their human problem. The Galactic Council had thought they were removing a source of chaos from their ordered universe. Instead, they had created something much more dangerous than chaotic humans. They had created focused, determined, and very angry humans who had spent 14 years planning their revenge. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone had expected. Captain Ben Adams stood on the bridge of his ship, the Liberty, as it approached the Veltar research station. Below them, dozens of other ships moved in formation. Most of them were not human. "Mixed fleet ready for attack," reported his tactical officer, Carlos Stone. "We have ships from 12 different species, all armed with human weapons." Ben smiled. 6 months ago, these species had been enemies of each other, kept apart by alien politics and old grudges. Now they worked together, united by a simple idea that humans had taught them. Everyone deserved to be free. "Begin the attack," Ben ordered. The Veltar research station was heavily defended, but the alien shields were designed to stop alien weapons. Human technology cut through them like hot knives through butter. More importantly, the mixed fleet attacked with tactics no alien computer could predict. "Station is requesting surrender terms," Carlos reported. "Tell them we want all their prisoners released immediately," Ben said. "And we want copies of their research data so we can help heal the beings they experimented on." The attack was over in 20 minutes. As human teams moved through the station to free the prisoners, Ben received a message that made his day even better. It was from Earth, and it carried news he had been waiting to hear. Admiral Grace Mitchell's voice came through the communication system clear and strong. "All human fleet commanders, this is Admiral Mitchell. The quantum barrier around Sol has been destroyed. Repeat, the barrier is down. Earth is free." Cheers echoed through the Liberty's bridge. After 16 years, humanity's homeworld was no longer a prison, but Ben knew this was not the end of their fight. It was just the beginning of something bigger. On Earth, President Sam Turner stood in the rebuilt council chambers in Geneva. But this time he was not alone. Representatives from 47 different species sat around the table. Many of them were species the galaxy had never heard of before. Small groups that had been hiding from the major powers for decades. "The old Galactic Council is finished," Sam announced. The Zentari, Kethmori, and Veltar no longer have the power to control other species. But that leaves us with a question. What kind of galaxy do we want to build in its place? A small, blue-skinned alien named Yith-Kalar raised her hand. She was Zeth-Kalar's daughter, but unlike her father, she believed in working with other species instead of ruling them. The young generation of my people wants to help fix the damage our elders caused. We want to be part of the solution. That is good to hear, Sam said. But words are easy. Actions are what matter. Then let us act, Yith-Kalar said firmly. I have brought cargo ships full of food and medical supplies for the worlds my father's people destroyed. It is a small start, but it is a start. Dr. Kate Phillips, now Earth's chief science officer, activated a holographic display. We have bigger problems to solve than just making up for past wrongs. The galaxy's economic system is collapsing, trade routes are broken. Entire sectors are cut off from supplies. The major powers kept the galaxy running through fear and force, added Dr. Nina Foster. Now that their power is broken, we need new systems based on cooperation instead of domination. It was not an easy discussion. Some species wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Others worried that humans would just become the new overlords. A few suggested breaking the galaxy up into small, independent regions that would never interact. Captain Helen Torres, who had become Earth's military advisor, had a different idea. What if we created a defense force that belongs to all species equally? Not a human fleet or a Zentari fleet, but a galactic fleet with one simple job. Stop anyone who tries to conquer or oppress others. Who would command such a force? Asked a representative from the crystal beings. Everyone and no one, Helen said. Rotating command, mixed crews, and strict rules about when force can be used. The goal is not to rule, but to protect. The discussions went on for weeks, but slowly a new structure began to emerge. Not a single government ruling the whole galaxy, but a loose alliance of independent worlds connected by trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Species could govern themselves however they wanted as long as they did not try to conquer or enslave their neighbors. Meanwhile, the war against the old order continued. The Zentari, Kethmori, and Veltar had retreated to heavily defended fortress worlds, but their empire was crumbling. Every day more worlds declared independence. Every day more species joined the growing alliance. Captain Ryan Brooks, now commanding a small fleet of human and alien ships, received a priority message while patrolling near the former Zentari border. Captain, we are getting reports of massive Zentari fleet movements. It looks like they are planning one last attack. Where are they headed? Ryan asked. Earth, came the grim reply. Zeth-Kalar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds, as it led a fleet of 500 ships toward the Sol system. He had lost most of his empire, but he still had enough firepower to turn Earth into a burned rock. Council Prime, are you certain about this course of action? Asked his fleet commander. Destroying Earth will not restore our empire. No, Zeth-Kalar admitted. But it will send a message to every species in the galaxy. This is what happens when you defy the natural order. Humans think they can reshape the galaxy to their liking, but I will show them the price of such arrogance. The Zentari fleet was massive, but it was also the last one they had. If this attack failed, the Zentari would be finished as a major power. Zeth-Kalar was betting everything on one final strike. But the galaxy was no longer the same place it had been when the Zentari ruled through fear. As soon as the alien fleet was detected, messages flashed across space at faster-than-light speeds. Every species that had been freed by human forces, every world that had joined the new alliance, every ship that could fight, rushed toward Earth. Admiral Grace Mitchell watched the tactical display as hundreds of ships converged on the Sol system. Fleet status report. We have 347 ships ready for battle, reported Captain Chris Morgan. 60% human, 40% allied species. The enemy fleet is larger, but they do not expect us to have this much support. Good, Grace said. Let us show them what the galaxy looks like when free species work together. The Battle of Sol began when the Zentari fleet reached the edge of the system. But instead of finding a few dozen human ships, they faced an armada representing 30 different species. Ships that had been enemies for centuries now fought side by side against a common threat. The battle was fierce, but short. The Centauri had better individual ships, but the Alliance fleet fought with a coordination and determination that the aliens could not match. Human tactical doctrine, spread throughout the Allied forces, proved superior to the rigid battle plans the Centauri had used for thousands of years. When the last Centauri ship surrendered, Zeth'Color was captured alive. As he was brought aboard Grace's flagship, he looked around at the mixed crew of humans and aliens working together. "You have won this battle," he told Grace bitterly. "But you will not be able to hold your alliance together. Different species are meant to be enemies. It is the natural way." Grace looked at the defeated alien leader with something almost like pity. "You still do not understand, do you? Humans do not believe in the natural way. We believe in the better way. And we have taught the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than conquest." As the news of victory spread, celebrations erupted on thousands of worlds. The age of the great alien empires was over. A new age was beginning, one where species worked together instead of trying to dominate each other. But even as they celebrated, the leaders of the new alliance knew their work was just beginning. Building a galaxy based on freedom and cooperation would be much harder than tearing down the old system of oppression and fear. The real test was still to come. 2 years had passed since the Battle of Sol, and the galaxy was a very different place. Captain Helen Torres walked through the corridors of New Geneva Station, the massive space habitat that orbited Earth and served as the center of the new galactic government. Aliens and humans worked side by side in every department, their different languages mixing into a symphony of cooperation. "The final vote count is in," announced Dr. Kevin Shaw as Helen entered the main assembly hall. Kevin had become Earth's Secretary of Galactic Affairs, a job that required him to keep track of over 200 different species and their needs. "The new Galactic Charter has been approved by 96% of member worlds." Helen looked out at the assembled representatives. There were beings of every shape and size imaginable. Some breathed oxygen like humans, others required special environmental suits. A few existed as pure energy and communicated through light patterns. But they all shared one thing in common. They were free. "What about the holdouts?" Helen asked. "Mostly former Centauri colonies that are not sure they can trust the new system," Kevin said. "But even they are starting to come around. Trade is flowing again, and people can see that the alliance works." In another part of the station, Admiral Chris Morgan was briefing his officers on the latest developments. Chris commanded the Galactic Defense Force, a military organization unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. It had ships from dozens of species, but no single species controlled it. "Patrol report from Sector 7, said Commander Luke Peterson. "The Kethmori rebel faction tried to restart their mining operations on Zirion. Local forces stopped them with minimal casualties." "Good," Chris said. "What about the former Veltar research stations?" "All converted to medical facilities," reported Captain Lisa Carter. "We are still working to heal the victims of their experiments, but progress is steady. The transformation had not been easy. Many species struggled to adjust to a galaxy where they could not simply take what they wanted from weaker neighbors. Some former Imperial officers had formed rebel groups, trying to restart the old systems of conquest and slavery. But every time they tried, the Galactic Defense Force was there to stop them. More importantly, the oppressed species of the galaxy had learned to defend themselves. Human weapons and tactics had been shared freely with anyone willing to use them to protect freedom. The days when a few powerful species could bully everyone else were over. On the planet Kepler Prime, former mining slave Pip was now the elected leader of his people. The small rabbit-like aliens had rebuilt their world with help from human engineers and Centauri volunteers. Their cities were more beautiful than they had ever been before. "The harvest reports are excellent this year," Pip told his council, "and the water purification systems are working perfectly. In 5 more years, our world will be completely healed from the mining damage." "What about the trade agreements?" asked another council member. Better than we hoped, Pip said happily. 17 different species want to buy our fruits and vegetables. We will be wealthy enough to help other worlds recover from imperial damage. It was a pattern repeated across the galaxy. Worlds that had been strip-mined or enslaved were not just recovering, they were becoming prosperous. The new economic system based on fair trade and mutual benefit was proving far more successful than the old system of exploitation. But the real test of the new order came when long-range sensors detected something disturbing. Ships were approaching from outside the galaxy, and they were huge. Dr. Ben Adams was the first to see the sensor readings in his lab on Earth. "Kate, you need to look at this," he called to Dr. Kate Phillips, who was working at a nearby console. Kate studied the data and felt her blood run cold. "Those ships are massive, 10 times bigger than anything we have ever built, and there are hundreds of them." "How long until they reach the outer systems?" Ben asked. "At their current speed, about 6 months," Kate said. "We need to alert the Defense Force immediately." The news of the approaching fleet spread quickly through the Alliance. Emergency sessions were called on dozens of worlds as leaders tried to decide how to respond. Some wanted to prepare for war. Others suggested trying to communicate with the newcomers first. Admiral Chris Morgan called a meeting of all senior defense officers. "We know almost nothing about these ships except that they are big and they are coming our way. Any suggestions?" "We should assume they are hostile," said Captain Ryan Brooks. "Unknown fleets do not usually travel across intergalactic space just to say hello." "But we should try to talk to them first," argued Captain Sam Turner. "If we can avoid a war, we should." Chris nodded. "Agreed. We will send a diplomatic mission to meet them at the galaxy's edge. But we will also prepare our defenses just in case." The diplomatic mission was led by Kevin Shaw, accompanied by representatives from 20 different species. Their ship, the Unity, was equipped with the most advanced communication equipment the Alliance could build. When they finally met the alien fleet, the beings they found were unlike anything in the galaxy. They called themselves the Hegemony, and they claimed to rule a dozen galaxies beyond this one. Their ships were powered by technology that harvested entire stars for energy. "Your galaxy belongs to the Hegemony now," announced their leader, a being that looked like living shadow with glowing red eyes. "You will submit to our rule or be destroyed." Kevin tried to negotiate. "We are a peaceful alliance of free worlds. Perhaps we can find a way to coexist without conflict." "Coexistence is weakness," the shadow being replied. "The strong rule and the weak serve. This is the way of the universe." "Maybe in your universe," Kevin said, "but not in ours." The negotiations failed, and the Hegemony fleet began its invasion. But they had made the same mistake the old Galactic Council had made years before. They thought they understood what they were facing. The Hegemony expected to find a galaxy ruled by a few major powers that could be quickly conquered or destroyed. Instead, they found hundreds of independent worlds that fought back with weapons and tactics they had never seen before. Human innovation had not stopped after the fall of the old order. Combined with the creativity of dozens of other species, the Alliance had developed technologies that seemed impossible, ships that could phase in and out of reality, weapons that turned the enemy's own energy against them, and defensive systems that grew stronger the more they were attacked. But most importantly, the Alliance had something the Hegemony did not expect: unity. When the invasion began, every species in the galaxy put aside their differences and worked together. Former enemies became allies. Old grudges were forgotten in the face of a common threat. The war lasted 3 years, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Hegemony was used to conquering galaxies by breaking them apart, turning different species against each other. They had no idea how to fight an enemy that got stronger through cooperation. Admiral Grace Mitchell, now in her 70s but still sharp as a laser, commanded the final battle against the Hegemony flagship. "All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell. Remember what we are fighting for, not just our worlds, but our freedom to choose our own destiny." The battle was fierce, but when it ended, the shadow being that led the Hegemony was captured. As it was, Brought before the Alliance leaders, it asked a question that surprised everyone. How? It whispered. How did you unite so many different species? We have conquered 1,000 galaxies, and never have we seen such cooperation. Grace smiled. You conquered those galaxies by taking advantage of their divisions. But this galaxy learned something important 16 years ago. When you banish the ones who fight for freedom, you do not get peace, you get tyranny, and eventually tyranny always falls. The hegemony fleet was defeated, its survivors sent back to their own galaxies with a message. This galaxy was under the protection of free beings who would defend each other against any threat. In the years that followed, the galaxy continued to grow and prosper. New species were discovered and welcomed into the Alliance. Old enemies became trusted friends. Trade and knowledge flowed freely between worlds that had once been isolated or hostile. On Earth, an old monument was built to commemorate the day humanity was banished from the galaxy. The inscription read, "They thought they were solving a problem. Instead, they taught the galaxy what it meant to be free." Dr. Kevin Shaw, now an old man, often visited that monument. People would ask him what lesson they should learn from humanity's story. "The lesson is simple," Kevin would say. "Freedom is not something you can give or take away. It is something you have to fight for every single day. And when free beings work together, there is no force in the universe that can stop them." The galaxy had learned that lesson well, and it would never forget it. In the depths of space, sensors watched for new threats from beyond the galactic rim. But the beings who operated those sensors were not afraid. They had faced the worst the universe could throw at them and survived. They were free, they were united, and they were ready for whatever came next. The galaxy that had once banished Earth for being too chaotic and unpredictable had become something the old Galactic Council never could have imagined. It had become a place where chaos and order worked together, where different species celebrated their differences instead of fearing them, and where freedom was not just an ideal, but a lived reality. And at the center,